everyone, it's Holly Marie King, and we are here with The Confusing Kidnapped, Chapter 8. The search continues, but where to now? Anyway, so why don't we just jump in and find out where they're going? Alright, so Chapter 8, the search continues, but where to now? Come on, we have to go now, Monica ordered. She wasn't her normal cheerful self that morning. Helen's ankle was still sprained, and it had swelled overnight. So Andrew carried her on his shoulders. Ron was downstairs. The group could hear many people talking with or yelling at Ron. Are you sure about this? I'm sure someone else could carry me. Helen felt guilty about Andrew carrying her everywhere, like he had for the past 2 days. She was sure, wow, my goodness, excuse me. She was sure he was getting tired by now. Plus, she could feel Maria's glaring eyes on her every second of the day. She was getting very nervous. Andrew sighed, but he smiled back at Helen, knowing she was only concerned about his well-being. It's okay. Plus, if I get tired, I'm sure Ron or John will carry you for a little bit, he said. Okay. Helen stared at Andrew's back. If she hadn't been so clumsy, she could have just walked by herself. Some leader she turned out to be. The group snuck out the back. Everything was blocked out of Helen's mind. Her thoughts were just on how clumsy she was and what a terrible leader she had been. Ron joined them at some point. He was only facing off with the mob. Stop being so hard on yourself, Allison said before she left Helen's mind. Maria left Andrew shortly after that, but only trailed behind him. Andrew knew she was watching them closely. He sighed, hoping that this trip would be over soon. He soon realized that Helen had been quiet for some time now. Why are you so quiet? Andrew asked, shifting Helen around so she knew he was talking to her. Nothing, Helen mumbled, looking away. Helen, this is going to be a long trip. It'd be nice if what I'm carrying talked to me to pass the time, Andrew said. Helen started to cry. Oh my God. What's wrong? Oh my God. Helen, stop crying. What was I thinking? Writing her so crying all the time. My God. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been so clumsy. I had to trip over that stupid rock, and I was supposed to make sure the group was okay, but instead the group is taking care of me. Helen cried. She buried her face into Andrew's back. So that's why you're so upset. Don't worry about that. All great leaders aren't perfect. Besides, you've done a wonderful job taking care of us so far. Because all you do is cry. I mean, what kind of leader are you if you don't cry all the time? It's great. Plus, if you had left me there, I'd be a demon myself right now. So, you saved my life. I am forever grateful to you. So, the least I can do is carry you, Andrew said. Thank you. But I think you could use a break. You feel sweaty. You're sweaty. I'm sorry. Andrew laughed, as did Helen. They looked at each other, but they looked away quickly. It was too much, and Andrew needed a break from Helen. They knew they couldn't spend any more time together at that moment. Oh, no. John, would you please carry Helen for a little bit? Andrew asked. Yeah, I can do that for a couple minutes. John said. Yeah, no problem. I got it. Helen was sat on a rock, and John had Helen climb onto his back. Soon after, Ron took over, and so that was how the cycle went until nightfall came. Helen just could not take it. She turned away from the group and cried all night. How could she been such a horrible leader? Well, cry about it. It's not going to do you any good, lady. Just before everyone woke up, Helen tried to walk on her sore ankle. Her ankle sores. It doesn't hurt. It flies. It's an interesting ankle she's got there. But it was still too swollen, even though the swelling was down by a little bit. Whose turn is it to carry Helen? Reggie asked. All three of the boys had sore backs. My God, I don't know how to spell sore. When did I write this? I was 20 when I got it published. I think I was like, I don't know. I was a teenager. From the days long hard work. Oh, I was in middle school when I came up with the idea for this one. Like, right? I'm glad I learned how to spell. Let's not worry about that now, Helen said. A table had been sat where Helen had slept, so no one had to move her. Breakfast was served there. And what should we talk about? Ellen snapped. Where do we go next, Monica? Helen asked. She ignored the note of jealousy in Ellen's voice. She had noticed that Ellen and Maria had begun to be angry with her, and she didn't like it. She wished Allison to be by her side, and the demon appeared next to her. Allison had been a little more distant since their talks, and so Helen felt alone. Oh. The next possessed one is a friend of nature. Oh, my favorite one that I created. Monica said. Josh was floating nearby. You know, if you want that to get better, Josh said, pointing at Helen's ankle. Go away, Josh. I had to hear you all night last night, Helen snapped. She was getting frustrated with her injury, and someone pointing it out wasn't making it any better. They don't need to hear it. Well, you're the only one who can't walk away from me, so you have to hear me out, Josh said, almost singing. Everyone stared at the two. Shut up, Josh. I heard you out 100 times last night, Helen shouted. Tears of anger! Oh, good. She's not just crying tears of sadness. She's also crying tears of anger. We're blurring her vision. You guys should learn to keep an eye on this one. Your fearless leader was trying to walk while her ankle was still swollen. Now, do you think that's a good idea? Josh asked. Helen turned away from the group. She clamped her mouth shut and refused to say any more. It could take her weeks for her to get better. Josh, can I have a word with you? Allison asked. Alan, interesting. Josh opened his mouth to say something. Now, she snapped. Josh followed her a couple feet away, and they spoke in hushed tones. John, Ron, and Andrew walked away from the group. Maria floated nearby, while Rosie, Burke, and Natalie spoke by themselves. Cute. Ellen sat under a tree all by herself, disconnected from the group. Monica and Reggie stayed with Helen, but they said nothing. Helen had time to think while everyone spoke. Her first moment alone in weeks. She knew she had to stay strong for the group, so she wouldn't let her helpless feelings get the best of her, especially since that was what Troy needed to get control of her body and make Helen be lost in a sea of darkness forever. Fascinating. Her thoughts wandered to the cage. That cage Troy had put her in. A shiver ran down her spine. She had to stay strong for their sake, and that meant going easy on her ankle until the swelling was down completely. So, we're at agreement on this one. Whoever has to carry Helen last has to sleep next to her so that she won't try so hard to get up and herself up and going, right? John asked. Yes. But why is she in such a hurry? If she's hurt, she can't exactly help herself around. Why can't she just let us help her through this? Ron asked. Well, she feels guilty, and plus she believes she has to be strong for all of us. We don't know how much of this burden is on her shoulders, so all we can do is try and help her through it, Andrew said. So, let me get this straight. She believes she has to be a perfect leader in order to help us get through this journey. That's too much strain on her, because she's a crybaby, Helen said. Plus, that guy Troy is trying to take over her body like he did that one night, John added. Well, now that we're sleeping next to her, maybe we could ask Allison to keep an eye on things at night and wake us up if it happens. So then she would have to sleep during the day, though, Andrew said. Sounds like a plan, John said. Hey, everyone, it's time to go. We found our next destination, chimed Monica's voice. Allison, can I have a quick word before we leave? Andrew asked. Sure, Allison said. They went a couple of steps away from the group. What is it? Is Troy likely to attack again? Andrew asked. Allison hesitated. Yes, she said quietly, especially now that Helen is feeling so useless. Well then, will you keep an eye out during the night and sleep during the day until we figure this prophecy out? If it'll help, but why do you ask? Allison looked confused. Andrew sighed and told Allison the plans that the boys had made. You boys are too sweet. I don't know about Ron or John, but I owe Helen my life. Oh, trust me, John owes her too. Come on, you two. The others left without us, Helen said from where she sat. Oh, right. Andrew nodded at Allison, and Allison went over to Helen. Don't look at me like that, Maria, he said. Maria just turned her back away from him. Fine. Be that way. Well, maybe you shouldn't pay such close attention to another woman. She has the right to be mad. I think she has the right to be mad. May I sleep? I'm feeling a bit tired, Allison said. You don't have to ask. Just go ahead, Helen said with a brave smile. Come on, up you go, Andrew said, bending down as Helen climbed onto his back. Andrew moaned from the pain in his back when he stood, but soon ready to go when he was completely up again. Are you ready for another eventful day? Andrew asked as they began to walk. Anywhere my friends go, I'll follow, even if it means I have to crawl on the floor, Helen said with a laugh. The group was waiting outside a forest. Helen and Andrew were laughing and smiling when they approached. I never thought I'd see the day, Reggie said. When our son would look so happy with a girl, Natalie said. Isn't he happy with his wife? Monica asked. Natalie sighed. Sadly, Maria tricked Andrew into thinking he wanted to marry her, she said. Oh, man, Maria's getting a bad rep already. Why, is she psychic or something, Josh asked. Something like that. But she uses her music to enchant people, Reggie said. The two were almost in hearing range. Shh, no more talk around those two and their demons. They have enough complications with Maria being jealous of Helen, Natalie said. The whole time the group talked, Ellen had her back turned. She snorted. Maria's not the only one, she snapped. Stop it. Helen needs help. That's all, John said. He was talking to the back of Ellen's head. Nuh-uh, she's faking it, Ellen said, like 3-year-old not getting her way. Like a 3-year-old not getting her way. Come on. How can you fake a swollen ankle? Burke asked. Good question. Ellen, how do you fake a swollen ankle? Rosie asked. Ellen turned to her demon. How could you? My own demon turning her back on me. She snapped. Rosie hid behind Burke in fear. Besides, I watched Helen try to walk. There was no way she could have been faking, Josh said. Although, she could have known you were watching her, Monica said, lost in thought. No. She was pretty scared when she saw Josh standing there, Manny said. By that point, the whole group began to argue. Andrew, you might want to put me down, Helen said with a sigh. Andrew found a rock nearby and placed Helen upon it. Enough! She shouted it. It echoed around the group, making everyone stop. Haven't we been through this? I guess this is how it's got to be. Get you guys to stop fighting. Besides, fighting about me isn't going to help me feel better, Helen roared as the group stared at the crowd. That's right. I knew what you were all talking about. Reggie and Natalie, you two should be ashamed of yourselves. I trust you two to be the wise ones of the group and to help keep it calm. Burke, Rosie, Manny, and yes, even you, Josh. I appreciate you all coming to my defense. And you too, John. But please, yelling at Ellen isn't helping. Helen's voice cracked. She had to talk in her normal voice now. And Ellen, please understand, I don't mean to intrude on any of your relationships, but please refrain from yelling. Monica, Ron, thank you both for not arguing as much as the others, because you need to be included in this, because, whatever. But please, we can make this trip a lot more fun by not arguing whatsoever. I don't know why that's a question. Helen grew silent after that. The group just continued to stare at the ground, ashamed of their behavior, feeling their actions had been useless. Helen looked up at the group with sharp eyes. Now, may we please go so that we may continue on in this trip? Helen asked after a moment's silence. A nod went through the group. I'll carry Helen if you're tired, Andrew, Ron offered. Nah, I'm fine. Andrew picked Helen up off the rock he had left her on. As soon as she was situated, the group continued on through the dense forest ahead of them. I forgot about that part. Oh, and Helen freaked out. I don't even know if that's not. I don't think I put that in the final draft. Anyway, that is the end of Chapter 8, and we will be on to Chapter 9, An Unfair Accusation, in the next week. If you are enjoying the rough draft and or the final draft, if you've been keeping track of the final draft as well, there will be also a links, multiple, because there's 3 places you can buy my book. If you're interested, in the description below, I always put it there, so in case anyone's interested. Like I have said in the past, I only make 10 cents a book, so I'm not really buying it for my art, selling it for my benefit. It's more if you are interested in having the book yourself. And hopefully I will see you guys next time. Bye!